Now moving on to the next. Okay, now we are facing failures because we are not able to control ourselves. Now we'll know what are the obesity pharmacotherapy, current and future, by none other than our Dr. Nita Deshpande, who is the principal investigator for several global clinical trials on obesity, and she has done many orations, and she is the National Executive Committee member, and she is the Executive Member, International Metabolic Physicians Association's Coordinator, RSSDI Task Force for Obesity. So she'll throw more light on the treatment, pharmacotherapy for obesity. Over to you, doctor.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Thank you all for being here. Good afternoon. And I'm very privileged to be here, and I thank my good friend Dr. Jyoti for having invited me here to this wonderful conference yet again. So I'm going to take you through obesity pharmacotherapy. There has been so much of a buzz now with so many new drugs coming in like never before, and we need to know what we have now and what we have in the offing, what is expected to come in the future. And I'm going to take you through the evolution of what we have, the current drugs that we have, and a glimpse into the future. So basically I don't have any disclosures for this particular talk. So this is the treatment gap that we talk about. We all know that if you look at the clinical trials that do diet, exercise, that do bariatric surgery, and that do pharma and otherwise, you find that there is a limitation for weight loss with each modality if you go algorithmically. So in general, if one had to do diet and exercise and lose weight, approximately 5 to 10% is what you would get tops for diet and exercise. Of course, I'm not going into the outliers. A very young patient of 25 years old may lose 25 kgs also with diet and exercise. But this is, I'm talking to you in general, what the clinical trials tell you. It's about 5 to 10. Then we all know that bariatric surgery is the one that gives you upwards of 20%. But there is a gap in between those 10 to 20% where it's not enough to do diet and exercise, and you don't want to go all the way extent to bariatric surgery. But those people also need to lose weight. So this is the gap, the treatment gap that can be filled by pharmacotherapy. And now I'm going to show you also data that gap which is there, it is actually encroaching upon the bariatric surgery space. Because the newer drugs that we have, many of them can approach the weight losses that you can achieve with bariatric surgery as well. So it's not just that gap, it is encroaching upon the other one also. Now, we have had many drugs in the past. I'm not going to delve into that. Many came and many went away on account of several side effects, cardiovascular and otherwise. So then came the second generation obesity medication. How do you define that? That the drug that you call a second generation obesity medication should be able to safely produce an average of more than 10% placebo subtracted weight loss in randomized clinical trials in the majority of patients, or at least have the ability to safely produce a greater than 15% weight loss in more than 50% of the patients as an adjunct to lifestyle. As Dr. Bhavtarini very clearly said, that if you don't do lifestyle modification, nothing works. So that is a must, whatever modality you may adopt. These have been the key milestones in the GLP-1 therapies. That's the space we are looking at now. So you can see very clearly here that it was very exciting that in 2005 you first had exenatide, then came liraglutide, then came the CVOT trials, then came the drugs, especially semaglutide and tirzepatide, which were then licensed for use for obesity even without type 2 diabetes. So that is what we are looking at now, and these have been the key milestones in the development of GLP-1 therapies. So let's look at what receptors we are looking at. This, I'm going to show you two more slides similar to this. So these are the major gut hormone targeted therapeutic approaches. So that's where we are looking at. We are looking at gut hormone therapy, gut hormone targeted therapies. And to that effect, first came the single agonist, as you can see here. And in the single agonist, The most important ones that we are looking at are GLP-1 receptor agonists. You have amylin analogs as well, but in India you don't have them. So we stick to the GLP-1 receptor analogs. The first one that really made a difference and a dent was liraglutide for weight loss. First among patients with type 2 diabetes. You can see here that with 1.8, with 3 milligrams, you're getting very good weight losses. And then came the next group of drugs, and that is semaglutide. We all know that this has just been launched recently. You had the oral semaglutide that has come in a couple of years ago, but now we're talking about Wegovy, or rather injectable semaglutide that has been licensed for use for obesity in India. It's a once weekly subcute injection. And you have the STEP group of trials that looked at this particular drug, and it is being used very, very widely all over the world. So if you look at the step 1 to step 4, the first one was only weight management, step 3 was with intensive behavioral therapy, step 4 was to see whether it was sustained enough, and step 2 was actually type 2 diabetes. And you can see here that for weight management with behavioral therapy and weight management in general, you can see here at least about 16.9 to 17% weight loss. This is step 5 to look at sustained weight loss, which means to say that what happens to it if you randomize patients, to continue the drug or not continue the drug. Those who don't continue the drug, that is what you see, and those who continue the drug, you can see that there is a more than 20% weight loss in more than 1 in 3 patients. Then came the SELECT trial that demonstrated that this weight loss is sustained over a period of 4 years when treatment is continued. More importantly, as with other GLP-1s also, if you do the DEXA, what you find here is that you are getting a 2/3, 1/3. That means you're getting a 2/3 fat loss, which is desirable, and you're getting a 1/3 muscle loss, which is inevitable. There's nothing much you can do about that, but it is minimized, and that is what is important for us. Of course, there are a lot of caveats to be followed if you are using GLP-1 or any incretins for weight loss, where protein intake, resistance training, all of these things are extremely important. And of course, there's a change in abdominal visceral fat, which is again something that we are very much for, where you want abdominal fat to go, because that is the one that is the toxic fat. Another important thing is that there is a significant improvement in cardiovascular and metabolic risk factors. So this is what we have currently. What you can see, that blood pressure, C-reactive protein, which is a representative of inflammation, which is very much prevalent in obesity, that also comes down, and that is something that you are seeing. Triglycerides come down. So what you are seeing here is not just weight, you are seeing that the right kind of weight loss is happening, fat is going, plus you are getting pleiotropic effects in your metabolism. Then came the discovery. Now this is what we are looking at currently, multi-receptor drugs. So what I showed you until now was single agonist, then came multi-receptor drugs, which have shown even more phenomenal weight loss, and what you're seeing here is the dual agonist. So tirzepatide is one of the dual agonists. There are some others like survodutide as well, but tirzepatide is the one that is available to us in India as at the moment, and this was the SURMOUNT-1, where they showed weight loss with tirzepatide almost at 15 milligrams to the tune of 21%, which is phenomenal, because this is what you get even with bariatric surgery, and this is the weight loss by week, and so it has shown you a lot of promise, and this has been borne out in clinical trials with thousands of patients. So that this is a dual agonist. Then this is the same thing in type 2 diabetes patients. I would like you to know that whatever drug you use, whether it's semaglutide, tirzepatide, or any of them, what you find is that you get a much lesser weight loss response in patients living with diabetes than in patients living without diabetes, and that is known. So what you saw was 21% there is around 11-12% over here in diabetes. It's always like that, and this is the SURPASS 135, where the same drug was used in type 2 diabetes patients. This is another dual agonist which is called survodutide. So survodutide is a GLP-1 and glucagon, not GIP. You know, tirzepatide has GIP. This has glucagon along with GLP. They've done phase 2 trials and it's going far ahead. Close to 40% of people who were taking the highest dose lost again 20% or more. So you can see here that single agonists are somewhere around 15-16%. Dual agonists are somewhere around the range of 20 to 22%. And then in this trial, patients reaching and staying on a weekly subcutaneous dose of 4.8 milligrams of survodutide lost 18.6. That's what I said. It's between 18 to 20. So this is a dual agonist that you are seeing. This is another dual drug, which is CagriSema. That is cagrilintide with semaglutide. So this is again a different kind of a receptor. So this is the efficacy and safety of co-administered. Again, this is once weekly. Cagrilintide 2.4, semaglutide 2.4, type 2 diabetes, multicentric, double-blind, randomized controlled trial, 32 weeks. And they took adults with type 2 diabetes with a BMI of 27 or more. And what you find is that the mean change in body weight here is around 15.6%. As compared to the arm that had only semaglutide, and that is very, very significant. So this is another example of a dual agonist. Now the next big thing that is going to come is the triple agonist. So what you're going to now hear about is triple agonist, and this is very much in the offing. It has really gone far ahead, and that is retatrutide. I'm sure all of you have looked at the NEJM that came in 2023. It has moved on ahead even from there, and there you're getting an average 24% drop from baseline itself. So this is, as I said, very much in tune with what you saw with what you see with bariatric surgery. So you can see here that controlling obesity with multi-receptor drugs, whether it is you had mono, dual, and now you have triple, and you're actually closing that gap, and as I said, encroaching even beyond that gap into the space. Now what does the future hold for us? You have single, you have double, and then you have triple. What next? So what next is all of this. I don't even expect you to look at all of this. These are all the targets that are being explored. This much is there in the offing simply because obesity is such an epidemic. There is such a huge market and so much of research happening with all of this and acting at different areas. So these are the new classes of GLP-1 related therapies in clinical development. I told you survodutide, retatrutide are very much in phase 3 trials. Tirzepatide already there, CagriSema phase 3 over. I'm going to dwell a little on the last one that you see there, and that is orforglipron, and then there are so many others which are there, which are all in clinical development. So these are a new class now. Now, till now, whatever you had were all peptides. Oral semaglutide is also a peptide. And because it is a peptide and very liable to getting destroyed by the gastric acid, a lot of technology has gone into it, and there are a lot of restrictions to it that you have to have it early in the morning, only with this much water, 30 minutes no intake, and all of that. Now this is a new class which is called non-peptide. So you're also getting non-peptide oral GLP-1 RAs that are in the pipeline all the way from preclinical to phase 3 studies, and this is what is going to come out now. What are the key benefits of non-peptide GLP-1 RAs? Higher oral bioavailability, no food or water restrictions like I just mentioned to you, simpler administration compared to oral sema, simpler manufacturing process, more accessibility, no requirement of empty stomach, etc., etc. So this is the orforglipron, a small molecule approach, as I said. If you look at the last part of it, these are the trials: Achieve 1, Achieve 2, Achieve 3 and Attain. So Achieve 1 trial has been completed. Quickly I will go through the results. Achieve 2 is versus DAPA, which is ongoing. Achieve 3 is versus oral sema, which is ongoing. And Attain trial is for weight management. Safety considerations: a previous small molecule had shown liver toxicity, but this one has not shown any of that. This is the Achieve 1. They took patients with type 2 diabetes, 560 of them, 3 doses of orforglipron, 40 weeks, and they looked at A1C and weight. And these were the trial results. So you can see that there is 1.4, with the highest dose I'm talking, 1.48 A1C reduction. You had A1C targets that were met. Weight loss was around 7.6%, and about 4 to 10% loss more than 15%. Safety was pretty good. No severe hypoglycemia, no pancreatitis. Discontinuation rates were very, very similar. No liver dysfunction. And before I conclude, I should also tell you that there is another new thing that is going to come up, and the results, you can look up something called the BELIEVE study. The name of the study is BELIEVE study, in which they used, just half a minute, they used a monoclonal antibody along with a GLP-1 receptor agonist to make sure that there was no muscle loss. No muscle loss. So that is bimagrumab is the name of the monoclonal antibody. You can look that up. So to conclude, obesity pharmacotherapy has entered a transformative era. These drugs are emerging. Multi-receptor agonists often offer hope beyond lifestyle alone. Sustained weight loss and CV benefits are now realistic goals. Personalized therapy, safety, and long-term adherence remain the key. And lastly, the future lies in combining efficacy, convenience, accessibility, and cost. All of that. So thank you all very much for a patient hearing.